Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Horrifying Experiences. Anons of X. What was the most horrific experience you've ever had? This can range from paranormal, real, sleep paralysis, and everything between. My experience is that of a bride drenched in water in my nightmares. Her jaws detached, 7 feet in lengthy, and is crying at me and will panic if I touch her. This has been going on for months now, and where I touch her when I wake is always burning.
I don't know if it was horrifying, but I definitely know that it was panic-inducing. I was actually almost drowned by someone today when I was playing underwater rugby in my class. I'm in high school last year. One of my courses has us try out different sports. Today we tried out underwater rugby. I'm a little bit awkward as a person, though for most of my life I've always been semi-popular and extroverted. That has not been the case though for the last 2 years since I changed to a new class. I just didn't seem to fit, and the first year being with these psychos was probably the most solitary and miserable part of my life. I learned to not care what these people think eventually. I don't think they like that. Anyway, we go to this swimming hall. There's a special diving pool that's 4 meters deep. I'm pretty experienced with swimming. I instinctively think that I shouldn't get too competitive since people who can't swim are really dangerous to be around in the water. I was honestly just participating so that the teacher wouldn't give me shit. I took the ball from someone else. After holding it for a millisecond, it disappears. I don't really care, just look under the water to see where they took the ball. I'm on the other team's side of the pool. Feel 2 hands grip me on each side of my shoulders. Get pushed down deep into the water. Don't realize what's going on. I try to get up. Get pushed down again, even deeper. Survival instincts kick in. Twist my body with my full strength, jump as far upwards as possible. Scream, someone tried to kill me, no one responds. I talk to the instructor, and the asshole tells me it's part of the sport. The ball was literally on the other side of the court. I wasn't participating. I have no idea who it was. I'm angry that I couldn't do anything.
Family home haunted next to wildlife reserve. Spooky things happen in house and around property frequently. Shadows appearing not just to me but anyone else that lives there or visits. All friends afraid to traverse house alone. One was even attacked. Entity clambered down narrow hallway, was able to vocalize guttural, gurgling noises audibly. Brother saw one crawling around in basement, unclear if same entity. Several spectral people seen as well by multiple sources. Voices and footsteps through house even when no others are present or awake. If power is out, it's 1,000 times worse. Rumors of satanic rituals conducted on property long before house was constructed. Have witnessed UFOs and skinwalkers alike. Have seen black helicopters go up and down the valleys armed to the teeth. One hovered over me in yard. Guy had a minigun on a rail on the side with a rifle in hand. Cars sitting outside property for extended periods at random times. One night have a up-close encounter with a gray, pretty certain it was trying to mess with me. Could feel vibration and heard humming, tinnitus sound while it was peering at me through window several feet away in the dead of night. When I fought the urge to pass out and get up off couch, it ran across the yard and away. Ran outside to try to find and confront it. Completely gone, aside from small footprints. Footprints were indistinguishable from human tracks aside from a lack of tread present in each. Another time as I was arriving at house late at night, I watched a UFO zip in at low altitude with green auricular contrails flowing behind it. Clear as day, could even see some of the structuring underneath it, very sleek and pristine. The green contrails were similar to the aurora borealis and lingered a few seconds before evaporating. Spent years tracking and documenting this shit. Psychics I've spoken to say the property gives off an eerie and abnormal vibe, even at a distance.
When I was 11, my parents purchased a new house outside of the town we were living in, Arizona. It was a gorgeous home a guy had just built and was nestled up very close to mountains. He decided to sell it within 2 months of living there. My parents bought it for just at $300,000 when it had been appraised at almost $450,000. The house was gorgeous and we lived there for many years, but I had several odd experiences at the house. I'd always get this overwhelming feeling of dread every night before bed, and for no good reason I would always cover my entire body with blankets out of fear of something being in my room. I had no reason to ever believe there was, and I never watched horror movies as I had very protective parents. It was just something that would always come over me every time the lights went out and I shut myself in the room alone. One night I happened to be laying on my side facing a wall with a window, with my closet and bedroom door being to my back. I had my head hidden under the blanket with just my face poked out to sea. I was looking out the window when I saw something in the corner of my eye. It was a shadow moving slowly across my bedroom wall. It wasn't large nor was it small. I watched it and figured it must have been some light playing off the window, but the only problem was I was facing the window and whatever it was casting the shadow was behind me. From that night on I slept with a nightlight in that corner of the room, as embarrassing as that is to admit. The fear never went away, but the worst it ever affected me was about a year later, right before we were getting ready to move out of the house. I am very good at shutting closet doors and bedroom doors before bed. My fear of open doors mainly persisted from living in that home. That night I went to bed like normal. When I woke up, my closet door was open and I had scratches on my arms. I to this day am horrified thinking about it. I know I must sound paranoid.
On a busy Saturday night downtown, a small group of teens was crowded around a young teen girl who was freaking out. I stopped to see if I could help, and they explained that she thought someone spiked her drink at the non-alcoholic youth club they'd been in. As I tried to calm her down, she passed out. I told the kids that I was going to run to a phone and call an ambulance. This was the days before cell phones, and they told me if I did, they would grab her and run. They said they all came from the same group home, and if I called an ambulance, they'd all get in trouble. I'm a community organizer, so I knew where the city's detox was, just a few blocks away, so I scooped her up in my arms and ran there, with all the kids following. When I got there, they wouldn't let me in because she was only 14. They told me if they accepted her, they would become her legal guardian, and the rules did not allow them to do that. They also refused to call an ambulance for me and told me to go to a phone booth and call one myself. By this time, the girl was a dead weight in my arms, completely limp and boneless. I ran back into the busy streets and begged passers-by to call an ambulance or drive me to a hospital. People with car keys in their hands told me they didn't have a car, and no one wanted to get involved. Crying now and desperate, I tried to get cars to stop by standing in front of them in the street, an unconscious young girl in my arms. Not one stopped. Not one. Most just drove around me. I didn't even know if she was still breathing, so I did the only thing I could. I ran to a phone booth and called 911 and, as promised, the kids grabbed her and ran. To this day, I don't know whether she's alive. I remember it like it was yesterday, the memory of weeping with desperation with a dying girl in my arms, and not a single soul would help me, like a nightmare, but much worse because I knew it was real. Never saw the world the same way again.
When I failed to stop a child from being abducted. Walking back home after a job shift, I walked by a child playground. I heard a scream and saw a dude running with a little kid in his arms and the mom screaming and chasing behind him. I threw my bag and chased him too, but there was already a car waiting for him around the corner. That toddler's wailing, the mom screaming and crying nonstop as we both tried to chase the car that quickly sped up and disappeared. It still haunts me to this day. I couldn't sleep well for weeks.
Alcohol withdrawal and waking up to see a evil-looking 7-foot gray alien standing over me and reaching its hand over to cover my face and crying out the name of Jesus to no effect, or experiencing multiple false awakenings while asleep, constantly having the same looping dream over and over, each ending with people trying to harm me, feeling like I was trapped in the dream forever, or the time I accidentally consumed an ounce of cannabis. Legal where I live, I don't smoke or own weed anymore with zero tolerance, and believing I was bricked inside my home like the cask of Amontillado, or that if I opened my door it would just loop back into my bedroom for infinity, and that I was trapped in hell forever because I had died. Fun times. I quit abusing substances, but I still feel mildly schizo and traumatized from the experience.
I was about to start a thread before realizing I couldn't because of my current IP range. Here I go. Not a LARP post. This happened back in the summer of 2016. I had just recently graduated and moved to Manhattan as a fresh start. A cousin of mine was there, and after a fight with his flatmates, I got kicked off the apartment and ended up homeless in Lower Manhattan. I was in my early 20s, not addicted to any hard drugs, and not an illiterate immigrant, which was kind of a novelty for a street guy. This was also the height of the K2 epidemic, and parks at the time were full of what people called K2 zombies. There were 2 soup kitchens in the area I loitered in at the time, one on Lafayette Street and the other over at Bowery, and I would make my way about 3 to 4 blocks from the former to the latter every morning. I did this for about a month or 2. One day something really weird and disturbing happened. As I was waiting for the light to change on Bowery Street, the morning traffic was light as usual, and as I was waiting, for less than a minute mind you, a white or gray sedan pulled super hard in front of me. Not screeching tires hard, but a very abrupt stop. There was a fattish man inside. I couldn't make out his face because he was holding up a piece of A4 paper to the closed passenger side window with it printed on it. Get in the car. I froze for 3 seconds that seemed like minutes to me. The guy honked 1 or 2 times. I stared at the revving car, and then I decided to just keep walking and pretend I didn't see anything. As I kept walking in the opposite direction, the guy kept honking and honking and honking, which to me is still disturbing to this day. Then I heard him peel off and never saw him again. Every once in a while I think back to this memory. I am pretty certain that man had been stalking me for a while, as he pulled almost as soon as I was preparing to cross the street. Could it have been a serial killer? I read that major FBI profiles think each major city has at least a dozen serial killers at any given time. Did I dodge a bullet? Why not roll down the window? Why the piece of paper? What would have happened had I gotten inside? Is this some sort of criminal technique or pattern? Did the guy just mistake me for a male prostitute? Or do you think this is seriously more nefarious? Have any anons here of something like this happening to anybody? I'm just wondering if I should appreciate life more. Any reply is appreciated. I just want to make sense of this.
I'm not sure how to feel about that. On one hand, he could have been a killer or have some negative intentions. Or he was sent to deliver a message to you. That's a hard call for not being there and being able to listen to my instincts for understanding. I would say you did the right thing because you followed your instincts. Did anything happen recently after that in your life that was a major change or event?
I had just moved to the US from Spain as a graduate and was known as a foreigner in that shelter system at the time. I am from North Africa and I looked the part too, although you could hardly tell from my accent. After that, well, one of the creepy homeless guys that used to hang out at the free Wi-Fi spots told me he met Ted Bundy once before. I think he also used to pimp some of the younger youths out. But I never could figure out what his addiction was, although it was quite obvious he had one. Looking back now, I wonder if he was implying something more. The missionaries also hated me for being Muslim, I'll tell you that much. They hated me with a fervor and would give impassioned speeches and rile up the mentally disturbed against the ungrateful such as myself. After all that, I got arrested for a dime bag of weed on 9/11, which canceled my visa. Then, I went home.
I have a few experiences. 1. I was like 16 years old and I noticed I was being stalked by shadows. They started just talking to me, and later I started to have a lot of sleep paralysis and they would show up to say horrible things to me. Also, they followed me for a while, and one day I was leaving my home and this shadow showed up and followed me. When I noticed, I started running and it did the same. I was able to find more people a few blocks away. And the shadow just vanished. I don't know why they did that or what they wanted. 2. I saw a bunch of snakes and lizards when I tried to sleep, but it stopped a while ago. 3. Happened last week. It was like 3 a.m. and I was trying to sleep. Then my body paralyzed and I felt someone pulling me from behind trying to get me out of bed or something, and some horrible things popped up in my head. I was able to fight back and my body moved again. This is the second time they have touched me. 4. When I tried to take my own life, I didn't make it on time and my parents showed up and found me covered in blood. I had my neck and wrists cut and I was very scared because I didn't want them to see me. Later, I felt very scared at the hospital, not because I was dying, but because I knew I was going to be locked up. I spent 2 weeks at psych guard and it was very scary because they kept talking to me and forcing me to take meds that just made me numb. I could go into more detail about this if someone wants to know what it's like.
It's okay, kid. Just take it easy. Go easy on the meds. You know, there is a lot of beauty in the world too. Travel is cheap, and it genuinely soothes the soul. If you can travel with people your age, do it. There is more to this world than whatever mental prison society puts us in. This board won't help you get better. I don't come here too often myself. Did the nurses, doctors smirk at you? That's not in your head. Gilles Deleuze himself spoke about the soul-crushing classism of the modern psychiatric system decades ago.
I don't take them since a few months ago. They were making me so dumb. I live in the third world, where doctors don't care and just up your doses whenever they feel like it. One male nurse was talking to me every day. He just approached me and kept insisting to open up to him, which I never did. He was the only male nurse. I could see the way he looked at me. When I got in there, he took me to the bathroom and forced me to spread myself in front of him. I really wanted to beat him up for humiliating me in that way, but I would get in more trouble.
Yeah, that is beyond messed up. I'm from Tunisia myself. I never had any shadow people or harassing voice-type visions. This is going to sound hard to believe, but I have a talent for guessing, I guess. I see things coming before they happen, sometimes without knowing it. Also, when people do bad things, I have this thing, don't know where I get it from, where I open the book on people, and it kind of seals their fate, to me at least. I foresaw the 2020 crisis travel lockdown and told my cousin about it in 2018. You know, I have to get out, I told him. I had a vision of being strapped by my hands and feet and sacrificed. During the first confinement, I was abroad and it happened. I just didn't know how to interpret it. My friends wrote 5 anonymous letters and 5 cops. 3 firefighters came to my home while I was chilling by myself to take me to the loony bin. I ended up refusing to cooperate, ha ha. I would think about a girl I haven't spoken to in 5 years and she would call me the next day. I foresaw the death of my favorite uncle and the old patriarch of our family 2 days before his stroke. I told his daughter something great would happen to her jokingly, and I added, you know, people think I am some sort of Marbu, right? God only knows how I managed to get out of that jam. I thank Sam and Universe Presence, Hellblazer, for giving me the script to get out of that jam.
Damn, that thing of yours sounds a little hard. I have never had this kind of stuff. All it happens to me, it's shadow people and voices. I would like to try some paranormal stuff to try to find out if I have something going on, but I don't know where to start. And yeah, you have to give your soul to these people so they're pleased with you.
Do the middle pillar. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is a good general purpose cleansing. It's not the ritual itself which is magic, it's the suggestion it gives you for reinforcing your borders against hostile thought forms. It's just complicated enough to trigger the right kind of superstitious auto-suggestion.
I'm going to check out how to do it and I will start right away, thanks.
You can also try simple hedge magic. As long as you can buy into them, they're quite effective. These include things like sprinkling salt in the corner of each room to be protected, then sweeping it up each day and discarding it. Cold iron nails, make sure they're not steel or zinc, are also effective when placed above any entry, such as a window or doorway, at blocking entry by hostile thought forms. You should also get yourself a medicine bag. It should be acquired, not bought. How you get it is up to you, whether found or gifted or stolen. The act of acquiring it is part of the ritual. Put small tokens which are meaningful to you into the bag and always carry it on your person. Around your neck on a thong is best so you don't lose it. And this is the important part, never tell or show anyone what's in it. If you do, the protection is gone and you have to start all over again. The secrecy is what powers its potent ability to induce suggestion.
A man in the wire stands frozen in a grotesque dance, contorted and mangled in a truly uncomfortable pose, irreversibly twisted and tangled up in the rusty barbed thicket. Any attempt to remove him now would see him come apart completely. The sodden wool uniform holds his disintegrating body together like the casing of some vile sausage. Pale waxy scraps of skin writhe with maggots and worms, devouring from within, the grisly excavations unearthing stark white bone. Great black clouds of flies hang about the scene and create a cacophonous buzz that smothers all thought. A lone rat emerges and peers out from a jagged shrapnel wound. Entrails hang as ribbons, stuffed to bursting with crawling larvae. He has been suspended there for weeks now, and the spring rains have not once allowed him to dry. The insatiable wet rot has taken hold. The smell of his festering wounds and rapidly decaying form joins with the stench of countless others tangled in wire or half submerged in deep craters. The grisly bouquet is undercut by the harsh burn of chlorine and the cloying must of phosgene from past shellings. The man in the wire grins, as though he knows some amusing secret, the punchline of a great joke to which only the dead and the mad are privy. His is the final terrible smile worn by death. In reality, he only grins because his lips have been gnawed away by scavengers. His sightless eyes peer into the fog, and he grins. He hangs there and smiles down at me, almost beckoning for someone to join him, to climb over the top, come a bit closer, and find out what exactly is so funny.
I was watching my sister's house for a week or two to take care of her dogs, and she had this tall lamp. I would keep it on at all times. It was dim, so it never bothered me while I slept. And one night I decided to turn it off and I had a weird nightmare. I was in a trailer in the woods and it was the middle of the night and I didn't have any lights. I used the moonlight to see and I was putting boxes up and then I start to hear a woman scream in the distance. I don't think much of it and just finished putting up my boxes. Then I hear the screaming again, but this time it's right outside the trailer and I hear scratching on a window screen. Then I wake up and the sun is just starting to rise and I look around the room and the closet is now slightly ajar, but it had a hairband holding both doors together as a means to lock it.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.